May 9th. You, yes you, come closer. Grab a coffee and let's get smarter together. It's said that we humans created gods to explain the world we didn't understand. And frankly, this has always sounded like whistling in the woods to me. We need to belittle our ancestors, maybe even shake our heads and laugh about them, so we can feel assured that no matter what, it's all right. We've made progress. We now are far more evolved. Scientifically, though, for at least the last 70,000 years, there's no reason to believe that. We have now identified stone tools that require verbal explanations for their production process that are far older than that, proving that our language took a long time to develop, probably more than 100,000 years. But around 70,000 years ago, our ancestors had our brain and our language skills. Even when you draw the line at 60,000 years ago, that's a mighty long time humans could think exactly like us. And there's one thing, at least, I argue, they did better than us. They were far more connected to nature, considering themselves an integral part of a landscape they observed fully, including themselves in it, connecting the dots. I mean, they could tell from just looking at waves that a landmass, an island or a continent, existed hundreds of miles away and which directions they had to go to get there. They knew when a tsunami was coming and that these signs meant they had to move away from the coast and up to higher altitudes. They even knew that plants processed data slower than humans and whose time ran differently in woods, the fairylands. Something that just made headlines this week when scientists proclaimed that they had discovered the same thing. Our ancestors didn't need gods. They saw the connections between events. So, why then gods? I think that, too, goes back to the way we generate a model of the world and ourselves as an actor in it, to solve specific problems. That paired with a psychological need to understand us as one entity throughout our lifetime. To explain, I want to revisit Helen the monkey. A short recap. Helen's visual cortex was removed in 1972, effectively blinding her. But mammals have two pathways from the eye to the brain. One, an ancient one, that is still used by fish, frogs, and reptiles, as their only visual system, leads to the optic tectum in the midbrain. And then there's the one that leads to the visual cortex. Since only the visual cortex had been removed, the visual system involving the midbrain was still intact for Helen. And just like fish, frogs, and reptiles, Helen could be coaxed to use it. She never herself seemed to, though she always doubted that information that was coming in this way. This phenomenon is now known as blindsight. A patient who had also lost his connection between one eye and his visual cortex remarked after he had never failed to guess correctly what was shown to his blind eye, that as far as he is concerned, the knowledge had come from an outside source, not from him. While he perceived the information, it didn't turn into a conscious sensation. Or, to put it differently, the data was available. Cells belonging to this patient had picked it up and processed it, and had it communicated between each other and the whole. What hadn't happened was that it wasn't used to generate the patient's world and self. As experiments with Helen have shown, however, even this, with the right training, is possible. And the same goes for so much other data that the cells and bacteria making up the human being collect every single moment. Just a sliver of it is used in the generation of our world and self by us, while a lot more could. A bunch of the stuff not used could be useful when it comes to a specific problem. if we could just make it accessible. In the case of Helen, as well as the patient, it meant overcoming their conviction that they were blind. It worked only partially in the human patient. The data inside him became accessible for him. He guessed correctly, but he felt like it came from an outside source. It was mostly a matter of trust in the source. He had never used the information coming from these particular cells. For our ancestors, this dipping inside to search for different perspectives that promised solutions to problems we faced would have come naturally, because random searches are the natural way to the highest payoff. You could also say that the transition between the mental and the physical world was far more fluid for them. And that again is true, as we generate the world we experience from the inside out. And she too would have been confused when the helpful information came from a bunch of cells that not usually provided to the generation of a model of the world and self, feeling like it came from an outside source, something that prevented them from questioning their unity as an entity, while she still got the data. And what is a god or a goddess if not an outside source with information? Of course, we wouldn't be humans if we wouldn't start to spin stories around these outside sources. And the rest is, as they say, history. Train yourself to look for special thoughts. Explore what you perceive but not sense that could be helpful, also known as think. Make a habit out of thinking. Let's turn thinking into a movement. Like, comment, share, and follow lest you miss a single opportunity to improve yourself and society. And just like that, this coffee break is over again. See you next time at the coffee pot.